The main event should have been the co-main. Max Holloway probably didn't realize how true his words would ring after a frankly disappointing pay-per-view. Well, UFC 276 was bittersweet and left many wanting more. With an eye-poke stoppage as soon as the main card started, the bad omen became clear. In today's video, we'll be talking about Israel Adesanya's performance and why it's divided the MMA community into two. First up, how good was the co-main event? After that controversial second fight between Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, everybody expected the third fight to be an absolute banger. Max was definitely in demon mode, and Volk has gotten better every time he steps into the octagon. Well, it's safe to say Volkanovski has finally put their rivalry to rest. In the third fight of their hype trilogy, Volkanovski defeated Holloway by unanimous decision to successfully defend his featherweight title. The co-main event of UFC 276 at T-Mobile Arena featured the 145-pound title fight, which unanimously awarded a 50-45 victory to the champion. The five-rounder produced the trilogy's most definitive outcome by a wide margin. It's now undisputed who the real featherweight king is, and that's Alexander the Great Volkanovski. At UFC 245 in December 2019 and UFC 251 in July 2020, the two first crossed paths. Both fights were decided in Volkanovski's favor, but they were incredibly close, especially the rematch. Many fighters and fans still believed Holloway to be the legitimate featherweight champion right after the rematch, but that belief has long since vanished with UFC 276. It was a stand and bang. Neither featherweight attempted a takedown until the fourth round. Throughout the fight, Blessed advanced but found it difficult to score against Volkanovski's solid defense. Truth be told, it was brutal seeing Holloway punished like that. He got hurt bad right in the second round, and his visibility probably went in the negatives with that blood constantly gushing into his eye. And after the domination Volk has put up, it's time to finally give him the #1 pound-for-pound honor. Next up, was Adesanya's performance truly bad? Now here's the fight that really caused a fuss. Many MMA fans hated how Izzy performed, while many rose to his defense. Adesanya defeated Jared Cannonier by the majority decision to defend his middleweight title in the main event of UFC 276. Truth be told, his performance was professional but pretty unspectacular. The judges gave the fight scores of 49-46, 49-46, and 50-45. Throughout the fight, the last stylebender's better striking was clear to see. He kept Cannonier at a distance and dismantled him with body and leg kicks and jabs, while Killa Gorilla managed to land nothing really remarkable. Many expected much more from the champ since he'd promised his fans a show. The absence of exciting action made the crowd restless, especially during the fourth round. The crowd's feelings were clear by how loud the booing was and the lit-up smartphones. Izzy didn't care though, as the former champion kickboxer can't be forced into a firefight by just boos. He was content to successfully hit from a distance, enough that Cannonier couldn't counter them. In total, Adesanya outstruck Cannonier 163-141, including a 116-90 advantage in critical strikes. The third round was awarded to Cannonier by judges Derek Cleary and Junichiro Kamijo, but that's pretty much it. According to referee Sal D'Amato, Adesanya won all 5 rounds, so that does say a lot in terms of the challenger's performance as well, and how you can't really hope to get the belt unless you add some risk. And now, how did people react to Izzy's win? Here's the thing, it wasn't pretty. People can be ruthless, and many had very strong feelings about the Kiwi's lackluster performance. Izzy walked out on The Undertaker's theme from WWE, and many thought the iconic walkout was actually much better than the fight itself. Ouch. Even Chris Pratt couldn't help himself from posting his 2 cents on Twitter. The famous Hollywood actor was there at T-Mobile Arena and clearly wasn't impressed by what he saw in the main event. For Pratt, an epic walkout like the one Adesanya did and all the publicity he generated in the lead-up to the fight called for a more aggressive style of fighting. Before the fight actually began, the Jurassic World star said he was confident that Adesanya would win by decision, but that he'd been hoping to see Cannonier win and take home the title. Well, let's just say Stylebender doesn't take too kindly to criticism. He called the actor just some fan, and that he was the real deal. Poor Chris Pratt actually then went on to apologize, but he wasn't the only doubter the Nigerian champ now has to deal with. Former fighter and commentator Michael Bisping also felt that Israel Adesanya didn't wow the audience enough to justify their expensive UFC 276 ticket purchases. People in the stadium paid $110, or around £92 for the cheapest ticket, and buying the pay-per-view cost Americans $75. Safe to say, many regretted buying the tickets, and you could even see people leaving the stadium before Izzy's fight even finished. Also, it seems like Izzy's former opponents have a lot to say too. It's not just actors and fans who are calling out Izzy for his performance, it's the fighters he's defeated too. The title defense by middleweight champion Israel Adesanya really didn't impress Marvin Vettori. Vettori, who's twice lost to Adesanya, recently told MMA Junkie that the champion was no true competition and that watching him fight Cannonier has given him even more incentive. On September 3rd in Paris, Vettori will take on former champion Robert Whittaker in the hopes of earning a trilogy matchup with Adesanya, but the Italian has to wait in line since someone else has already gotten a title title shot. Oh, and he has many supporters on his side too. While the hate and criticism rolled in, so did the support for the middleweight champ. According to Daniel Cormier, Cannonier shares equal responsibility for Adesanya's performance at UFC 276, especially since Izzy acknowledged that he was having a bad night and his shots lacked the power he was looking for. DC fully believes that the challenger's hesitation to interact led to the boring encounter. On his ESPN program, DC and RC, Cormier knows it takes two to tango, and that it's not the champ's job to make the fight more interesting. The champ has more to lose, the challenger doesn't. While Killa Gorilla started off strong, he didn't keep the same energy throughout the fight and seemed unwilling to engage with Adesanya. And it makes sense, right? You gotta be careful when you're dealing with one of the best counter-strikers in the sport. If you don't, you risk ending up like Paulo Costa and Robert Whittaker in their first fight. Things were made worse for the champ because of the fights that took place before his. After Alex Pereira, a former kickboxing rival, starched Sean Strickland, and Volkanovski put on a clinic versus Max Holloway, Adesanya had a tough act to follow. Still, DC believes that the last stylebender gave a strong effort despite the heavy criticism. Up next, what did Izzy have to say about his performance? "I'm not going to risk my brain, risk my health," Adesanya said. Being a fighter does mean risking these things, and he knows it. But what the last stylebender doesn't want to do is just give himself permanent brain damage to entertain fans for 25 minutes. And to be honest, more and more fighters are speaking up about this, which is a great change. Even Yuri Prochazka spoke up about how he takes too much damage in his fights, and while it's fun for the fans, he may retire early for the same reason. After the fight, Adesanya defended his performance in the Octagon, wondering what people were fake caring about today, and posting a picture of himself wearing his belt with the caption, "blah blah blah blah, hashtag and still, touché." And finally, what's the next fight for Adesanya, and how's that going to change things? It seems like Adesanya is set to go against his only kryptonite as of yet, Alex Poatan Pereira. Being the only man to have knocked him out and defeated him twice, this fight will be Izzy's make-or-break moment. If he can defeat Pereira, that will shut his haters up once and for all, especially since he smoked the rest of the division's greats. But if he loses, that's a whole other story. If Pereira achieves a knockout again, or even a defeat, then that's going to be one of the biggest upsets of the year, and going on off his performance against Strickland, it feels more possible by the second. The man's right hand is a hospital, but his left is a one-way road to the cemetery. The stage has been set for their third encounter in combat sports, after both men triumphed over their opponents. Since then, MMA fans online have been researching their past to fan the rivalry. At the post-fight press conference for UFC 276, Adesanya admitted that only one competitor was deserving of the next middleweight title chance. And for real, this might be the last stylebender's biggest challenge yet. That's a wrap for this video. What did you think of Adesanya's performance in UFC 276? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.